but okay. Alicia D. Williams, welcome to Middle Grade Ninja. I'm really excited to talk with you and about your book, Genesis Begins Again, which I absolutely love.
Oh, thank you.
And hopefully I've got all kinds of questions for you about it. But probably the best place to start is if you would just give esteemed audience an overview of yourself and your background.
Okay. I am a writer. I always wonder where to begin, but I am, I started off doing storytelling. I love the old folk tales, African American folk tales, and I used to perform them. I will write my one woman shows and perform them. And I went to acting school. So after graduating the University of Kentucky, I figured, oh, what am I going to do? I went to acting school, then left acting school, tried to do everything from stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, and plays, and then left New York, and boom, I wrote my own shows, did the storytelling, and eventually it progressed to, hey, let me write plays, and let me try that, and now here I am as a writer.
You've been a little bit of everywhere, right? Because you grew up in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
And then you were in Kentucky, and I know I'm talking to you today from Charlotte. Is that right?
Yes, yes. I I used to be such a risk taker. I used to, once I left Detroit, yes, I went to Kentucky for undergrad, but I left there and went to Kalamazoo, Michigan for a little while for Western Michigan. Couldn't stand it and went back to Kentucky where I guess it was my first love because it was like, hey, this is school. I met some real cool people and I wanted to go back to those people. And after that, I didn't really know what I want to do. I know I graduated with an African American histories major, but as far as teaching, I just wasn't ready to live life. And so there was this one little flyer, for acting, and I pulled it off, went to audition, I got in, and poof, I was off to New York. And that was probably the best experience. Instead of taking a gap year, that was like a gap year for me because I got to live life and I got to be an actress. I got to meet cool people, see famous people walking up and down the street of New York. It was probably the best. And after that, I kind of got tired of being a starving artist. And I left there, went back to Detroit, couldn't stand it because I was like, oh, I'm back home, back to feeling like I'm oppressed. Mom's always like, where you going? Like, I was so free that I didn't want to have anybody to tell me what to do. Ended up becoming a flight attendant. Yes.
So obviously, young adult novelist is the only spot that you should have ended up. I mean, it's a straight line.
That's how I got here to Charlotte.
So well, there's a lot to ask you about there. We'll have to go back along the trail a little bit. So, okay, this is after you finish an African American history degree that you decide that just out of the blue, I want to act. Had you acted in anything prior to that?
I did. The little growing up in the church plays that, every Easter you had to quote a little rhyme. I did those. But everyone had to do those. In college, I did do one play. I forget the name of it, but it was all women in the cast. I did that one play, but I remember like growing up, I did have in me was like, oh, I want to do this play. Like The Wizard of Oz was in my middle school, and I really wanted to do it. I just didn't have the courage to do it, and I talked myself into like, yeah, I could see myself. But when it came down to auditioning, I never even went up there. I was just not. I didn't believe in myself, I guess, or too shy, whatever. And then there was another play. I've always said I was going to do the plays, but I never did them. All through high school, never did them. So I don't know. I think it was in me. I think I finally blossomed later. I was like, hey, I feel good about this. I can still be shy, but on stage, you're not really interacting with the audience. So you still in that bubble, that fourth wall you never break. So maybe perhaps I was able to do it then because I realized it. But it was a crazy jump, I would say.
You're just in the mood for a change and said, all right, I'm doing this.
It was a crazy jump. I think it it was not necessarily in the mood for a change. I think it was more so that I wasn't ready for a real life.
The why that I can absolutely relate to.
Yes, the idea. I remember going to a career fair, and people were there, and the salary and the insurance and like the real major life decisions were at this table, every table, and I'm like, oh my gosh! Once I graduated, I had to get a real job, a real 9 to 5, a real. That didn't make sense to me at my young age. I just didn't have that. I'm a first generation college student, so the expectations of what I was supposed to do, it wasn't there. Just going to college was like, yay, and graduating was like, oh, she did it. So it wasn't like, we know how to guide your footsteps so you can live this life. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna try this now. I'm gonna try this now. I'm gonna try New York. I'm gonna try being a flight attendant. It was always this, I'm gonna try.
So there wasn't the sense of, hey, we just paid a lot of money for you to get a degree, so you were going to go get the better job and come back here and.
They didn't pay any money.
Oh, okay, wow. I guess they didn't have anything to say.
They didn't have anything to say. They didn't pay any money. I mean, they may have moved my furniture back and forth, and they were probably tired of that. They were like, when are you going to graduate? Because I was on a 6-year plan trying to change my major every year. But I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life.
But when did you figure it out, or have you?
Gosh, that is like sometimes I feel like I'm this kid trying to play an adult at my age. Like, when am I going to grow into being a full-fledged, serious adult? I think I am. I mean, the bills are here. Like, it's not a dream. I keep pinching myself. Like, are they going to just disappear? But I think for me, it was like measure myself with everyone around me, people I've graduated with. They're financial consultants, engineers, attorneys. I mean, like, they have these real concrete jobs that you dream of when you're little. And I couldn't do that. And even at my age, having this, oh, we're going to do this because we can afford it, because we make these big salaries. And like, yeah, I can't do that right now because I'm just in the wind working job from job, right? So I don't think I learned what I was supposed to do. I took jobs, not careers. You understand the difference? For a career to saying, this is what I was meant to be and I'm happy doing this, versus, I need a job to pay the bills. I need a job to take care of my child. That's what I was doing. But now that, I'm writing, I think when the shift of me becoming a mom, and really when she began to understand, and I had to teach her, like, you're in school now. When you go to college, I want you to be able to have a career. I don't want you to settle for a job. I don't want you to be like me, taking, micro managers and feeling depressed and anxiety because people are, over you. I never wanted my daughter to have what I've been through. And I needed to prove to her that she could do it by modeling it. And that's when I went back to school for my graduate degree. And I still didn't believe in myself enough. I mean, I'm thanking it for her, but I didn't believe in myself that I was going to become an author, because I didn't even finish the manuscript. But when I finished the manuscript and got an agent, it started to open up like, well, maybe this is the thing. But it still wasn't, not until maybe the last few years, feeling like I wholeheartedly like doing this. I mean, yeah, there's some angst about it. The revisions process, the waiting, there's angst all up in it, right? But seeing my book out there and having somebody say, this touched me, and I'm like, well, maybe all of that experience that I went through, all of everything that I trying to find my way, maybe that was for a bigger purpose. Maybe that wasn't for me. Maybe it wasn't because I didn't know. Maybe it's because I need to write the stories that in these experiences to draw upon, that maybe it's for somebody else. So that's the way I look at it now. Like, maybe I wasn't supposed to get out of college and have an engineering degree or have something magical happen that like this is it and I got the big fancy house. No, maybe that struggle and maybe the ups and downs and the curves and everything was for me to write, you know?
Well, not to worry. Now that you've published a novel, you'll never have to worry about angst or uncertainty ever again. That's over.
No problem. Now you know you got to worry about the next one, and then the next one. I like that. Like everyone says, each book is different, right? And how do I write the next book? And will they like it? And will the publisher like it? And will it measure up to the other one? Like you have all these other anxieties that may become attached to it. I don't think it's like, yeah, I wrote one book and then that's it. Unless you're like Harper Lee and that is always going to be on the shelf for SC, and that is always going to be on the shelf and surviving. And but the dream is to have that classic. But what if it's not? And what if it stops in 5 years? Nobody mentions it because something else came along and knocked it out the way, right? So staying relevant in this business is pretty much is where the next anxiety lies.
Well, the good news is you're on the Middle Grade Ninja podcast, so now you're probably the most famous author that ever was. You're good.
My worries are over. Yes.
But the nice thing is now that you've decided that you are, I assume, going to continue writing and produce more novels, you've got just a wealth of different experiences and stories to draw on, right?
Yes. And it's so funny. The older I get, I feel like I have to write them down because things start slipping away from you, memories and experiences. So one of the best things that I need to commit to, I had a advisor who, during the time of being in school, made us write a list of 5 things: people, places, objects, secrets, and events. And you write the words for each one. So all your objects that are like, what these things, how can I phrase it that makes sense? Write a list like of these 5 categories that you wouldn't be the same without. So of course my parents, my grandparents, like, or events of, me skinning my knee or whatever. So I would write a paragraph a day on just choosing one of those and just write. And then it would conjure up other memories. Like, oh yeah, forgot that. So I need to do that, be more proactive in doing that, because I don't want those memories to slip away, everything I've gone through. Because my mama say, hey, remember that? And I'm like, no, how's that etched in your memory, but not in mine? So I have to like really go back and mine that well, because I need that well. I went through it for some reason, and now, because I'm getting old, I can't remember them. So yeah, I do believe that. I do have a lot of stories.